fastest show in sports.
There is so much shared history that we have. You have so much more than I, and I have grown up as fan and blow-by-blow guy, and we talked about it before we even came on the air, how I used to look forward to Saturdays and being around boxing and watching good boxing and being there. Boxing sucks. It is one of the most useless things that I can think of in sports these days because it simply doesn't grab me. It doesn't reach out. It used to grab. Look, Bert Sugar, our great friend, used to say that Americans love big things. They loved big cars, big breasted women, and big heavyweights is what they always wanted to watch. They're not there anymore. The fighters are terrible. The fight's terrible. We have Jake Paul sitting there, who is part of it right now, who is the downfall of this sport. But let's start at the beginning. When did boxing go off the rails, Wally? What was that seminal moment?
First of all, let me just say something about Bert Sugar. I loved him, and I miss him terribly because now I have to pay for my own drinks.
He was wonderful.
Yeah, when did it go off the rails? I'll tell you when. I think the roots of it are when amateur boxing changed its rules. I really do. When they changed it to wearing headgear and they made it more into a kind of a contest rather than a fight. Now, amateur boxing is now all point scoring, and we have the white on the outside of the gloves. I think a lot of people didn't like that form of boxing. I mean, if you recall when the 76 Olympic guys fought, and we're talking about Sugar Ray Leonard, the two Spinks brothers, I'm talking about a great team. Howard Davis is on that team. It was like professional boxing. It was professional boxing, basically only 3 rounds long. When they decided to make amateur boxing a different thing, and then followed by not long afterward, the networks no longer showing it as a featured sport in the Olympics, I think that was the beginning of the end, because how did we get to know Sugar Ray Leonard? From the Olympics, and then from watching him on free TV every Saturday, right? How did we get to know even, Riddick Bowe or De La Hoya? Same thing. But little by little, the networks gave up on boxing. Amateur boxing became less interesting. I can't name the last American to win a medal in an Olympics. I can't recall. I think it was a woman. Honestly, I think it was.
Can you name even the last boxer to have a chance at winning a medal? Nobody knows who these amateurs are.
Because it's not on television anymore. Right. NBC, when they bought the Olympics, decided, and I've heard this with my own ears because I worked for them on a couple of Olympics. The Olympics is a women's event. So we're going to market it. Now, of course, women are very much into boxing now, so maybe they'll come back and put boxing on the air. But they felt in the 80s and the 90s that we will sell more if we show, figure skating, if we show more swimming, if we show more, track and field. Nobody wants to see boxing.
Well, it was almost at that point where somebody made the decision that Americans no longer want to see, or we don't want to broadcast, violence. I heard that from a programmer one time, where he said to me, there's too much violence in boxing. There's a possibility of blood going in the camera. And look, I even said that is indeed a possibility, because when I called a fight in Providence, Rhode Island one time in a women's boxing match, it was, Jamie, oh God, I can't even think of him now off the top. Jamie Clampett and Missy Fiorentino. It was the only fight I've ever done blow by blow on that I got bloody. I had a tux that had to go out because it was cross me when the fighting was there. But he said to me, we don't want boxing on network television because we don't want the violence. I said, but that's what the sport is about, man.
And that's a load of horseshit too, because the networks thrive on cop shows and violence, and and the American public loves to go to movies where people blow up and fall off buildings, and so it's complete bullshit. That's not it. That's not it at all. I think the Dooku Kim and Mancini fight definitely had an effect, because the man was basically killed on the air. I don't think they want to see that. But to say that they didn't want to see blood, that's bullshit. Because what's bloodier than MMA? What is bloodier than MMA? And it's actually designed to be bloody because of the fact that they use the small gloves. That's designed to cut the skin. I mean, that's what that's all about. By the way, I got bloody in many, many fights. And I once was the proud possessor for a very short time of a tooth that was knocked out of Mitch Green's mouth by Mike Tyson.
Now, wait a minute. Was that in the ring, or was that in the bodega?
No, it was in the ring. This was legitimately knocked out.
Okay.
So this was on my desk. It landed like on my laptop. and it was between rounds. I happened to be close to Green's corner, so I kind of flipped it to them. It was pre-AIDS. We had no problem touching bloody things. But yeah, I mean, look, that's part of the game, and that was always part of the game, and that's an excuse. Um, Listen, why do TV exec make any decision? It's always based on money.
Money.
Always based on money. So clearly, boxing was costing too much or not making enough for them to put it on. That's the only reason. I mean, don't give me the blood. If that's the case, let's go back to, the 24 hours of programming of Ozzie and Harriet and, the Partridge Family. Don't even waste my time with that bullshit.
When we look
Also,
at the amateur boxing is one side, but let's take it from the management side of things, from the promoters side of things, and of course, all of the various bent left noses and a lot of that went on, and the incredible amount of bullshit that went on from promoters at that time. How much of what went on there was that? Because you have amateur boxing as one point where boxing went off the rails, but with everything in the way boxing was being run, the way matches were being made, the way fighters were being given a shot, when did that and how did that take it off the rails?
Well, I think that only really inside boxing people care about the promoters and the matchmakers and all that. But I think what did hurt is the multiple championships. It used to be, there was one heavyweight champion and we all knew him. Now you've got, 64 guys claiming to be heavyweight champions. So when you have more than one champion in anything, you don't have a champion. It's as simple as that. When you get the WBA, the WBC, the IBF, WBO, I don't. There's probably more now. I don't pay enough attention because that's one of the things that really killed my interest in it. All these phony guys claiming to be champions, and then of course guys who are unqualified getting title shots because they're kicking back money to the Jose Suleimans or the Mendozas or the guys who were running the sanctioning organizations. I think that killed it as well. I mean, if you ask anybody on the street right now, who's the heavyweight champion of the world, what are they going to say?
Nobody knows.
They don't know and they don't
Nobody
care.
knows.
And the guy could walk down Fifth Avenue, at high noon and nobody would stop him.
Well, isn't that a big
And
part of it
honestly,
too?
I can't name who it is. I don't know if it's Joshua, Fury, Usyk, Deontay Wilder. I don't know who the hell it is. It could be anybody.
Isn't it part of it, though, that it needs to be, and this goes back to Bert Sugar and what he said many times, it's got to be an American. You've got to have an American in there somewhere because that captures the networks, that captures the marketing, that captures Madison Avenue. If you don't have an American in there, they look at, oh, wait a minute, okay, let's see. We have a Russian over here. We have a North Korean over here. We have an Australian here. That's it. Wally, I think that's why people don't care.
A guy with a story. I agree. An American would be preferable to get the American audience, but I think it's got to be a guy with a story. I mean, Tyson had a compelling story, right? Tyson had a compelling story. Muhammad Ali had a compelling story. Joe Louis, compelling story. I couldn't tell you anything about, Alexander Usyk. I couldn't tell you very much about. I could tell you a little bit about Tyson Fury, but to go to your point, he does have a great story, but he's not an American, and maybe that's one of the reasons why he never really caught on here. But I also think part of the problem is, I mean, boxing has killed itself. When you decide that all your events, even your mid-level events, are going to be on pay-per-view, all right, you're going to have to pay for them. You're going to have to go to a website and get a subscription, or you're going to have to pay, DAZN, or you're going to have to pay. Now you've limited your audience to only people who really give a shit. And how many of us are there? I mean, when you put a fight on a Saturday afternoon, a casual is going to watch it, right? A casual is going to watch it if the guy is compelling. If it's a Sugar Ray Leonard, I'm sure people who never cared about boxing watched him on a Saturday afternoon. If you're paying your whatever it was at the time, say $50 a month for HBO in the 80s, and Tyson's going to fight Saturday, you know what? I'll stay home and watch this. But now, when it's like, in addition to your cable bill, you now have to fork over $79.99 to watch this event. Who are you getting? You're not getting a widespread audience. You're not getting new viewers. You're getting people who are really into this. And you know what? There are fewer and fewer of them every year.
Why are there fewer people then who are into it? Is it simply that there are no more stories or there's complete confusion about who owns any title at any given time? It seems to me that's almost surface material. There's got to be something else why this sport is dying.
Well, I think it's a combination of all the things you just said. I think also the competition from MMA has not helped, has weeded off some boxing fans, some younger fans. I think it's a younger demographic that watches that. But I truly think, I mean, look, I can afford to pay $80 for a fight, but I'm not going to. And a lot of people are not going to. You can watch the Super Bowl for free. You can watch the World Series for free. I got to spend $80 to watch Crawford and Canelo, or $100. You got to be kidding me! I got to spend $100 to watch Jake Paul win a fixed fight.
Oh,
The public is stupid by and large, but they ain't that stupid.
That's all, folks.